Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Elena.
So let's talk about something that I think will be very insightful for a lot of PhDs. And it's something that we have observed in our Job Accelerator program and I think you can elaborate on this a little bit, but basically as an introduction, what we've realized is when the PhDs who work with us send us their resumes, we realize there is a lot of important detail and skills missing. And you looked for a way to pull that out. And what is one way or method that you use for the PhDs in our program to pull that detail and these skills that they often think as like they're common, or it's clear that you applied this skill in order to get there? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that the things that make you stand out are the unique ways that you have combined your skills to get outcomes. So oftentimes, because these people don't know you, it's important to remember that the people looking at your resume don't know you and they are not going to connect the dots. If you don't spell it out for them, they're not going to interpret that to say, oh, you have this skill if it doesn't appear in your resume. So you've got to have it there because you're just skimming through. So one of the things that we have done with the folks in our program is to use the STAR method, which is usually used for interviews. So you kind of get a twofer out of this where you can work on your resume, but you can also prepare for interviews at the same time. So the STAR method is a good way of pulling out stories. So your resume should tell a story, and the bullet points in your professional experience should be the supporting evidence in your story. And so what the STAR method does is it allows you to get to an appropriate level of detail so then you can take that and you can boil it down and you can summarize. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. Situation, think about that as all of the background to whatever problem you're trying to solve or whatever question you're trying to answer. It's kind of the context that you're operating in. So, for example, if you're looking into a particular disease profile, you can talk about the incidence of that disease in certain populations or something like that. Or if you're more on business side of things, you can talk about in my line of work, I'm going to talk about situational factors and human dynamics that exist in a company. So that's the situation. It's the background and purpose of what you're doing. The task is your objective. It's what you're trying to accomplish. It's the question you're trying to answer, the opportunity you're trying to elicit, the discovery you're trying to make. It's what are you the process you're trying to improve. It's the objective of what you're doing. So sometimes this gets referred to as actually the SOAR technique, but it's the same thing. So task, objective, same thing. Then you have the A, which is again actions. And this is the approach that you've taken. So in scientific terms, is the protocol that you applied. And you want to get into detail, get into the methods, get into the techniques that you used. Bullet point list it out so you can see here are all of the various techniques that I used. And if you're familiar with that particular type of job or role, which you can do, it's a thematic analysis on job descriptions, that's all it is. You can pull out those techniques and tools that you used as part of your resume bullet point. So the actions actually illuminate for you, here are all of the skills that you applied. And usually those are buried in the protocols, they're buried in the approach. So you want to get some of the techniques listed out there. And then the result is the outcome. So a lot of PhDs make the mistake of assuming that the publication is the outcome. But the outcome is actually the result inside the paper that you got. So did you discover a new novel therapeutic target? Did you make a process faster? Did you improve the accuracy or quality of classification? When you trained students, what did those students go on to achieve as a result of your training that they wouldn't have achieved otherwise? So your result is actually not what benefited you. So it's not the award that you got. It's not the notoriety that you got, which is important in academia, but in industry, it's how your work benefited your professional community, how it benefited others, potentially the end users of whatever it is you produced, patient populations, those types of things. And you want to be able to quantify it. So once you have that STAR method, you can actually break it down and summarize it. You want to kind of consolidate it into one bullet point. Usually, if you put this in a Word document, it's going to be about 192 characters long. So no more than 2 lines long. I know that's really specific, but I've done a lot of these. It's 192 characters that you can fit on that bullet pointed line without it feeling too overwhelming. So 192 character summary of what you did. So you want to start out with a strong action verb, and then you want to say what you did, how you did it, and the result. And the result is a metric, a measurable, plus an impact. And a measurable can be binary too. So it doesn't have to be this percent or that percent. It can be identified a novel target or disproved this theory or something to that effect. But you want to have a combination of some type of metric, categorical or numerical, and then the outcome of that. Like, what was the benefit, the impact of achieving that metric? And you just consolidate it into a single line. And oftentimes when we do that, we find that, you start to get some really, really powerful information about what people have done and how they've operated. And, when you start to think about numbers, some numbers, it's interesting because some of the PhDs we've worked with will have these numbers in the millions. They've achieved millions of dollars in grant funding, or they've reached millions of people. And that's not to say you have to reach millions of anything, but even people who are achieving those numbers are not putting that in their resume. And so you want to really think about, how many people did I impact? How did I impact my field? What benefit did I have doing something? Because you didn't do your work for nothing. There was a reason why you did your work. And so you want to illuminate that in those bullet points. And that's what the STAR method helps to do.
Unless you always like to say, industry likes to see, if you can help them save money, or if you have help making things more efficient. At the end of the day, if you have a dollar sign somewhere, always good to mention. So if you ever pulled in some grant funding, don't forget these things either. And I really do like the approach, Angela, not just because it helps you to distill out what you actually did, but it also helps you at the same time to already prepare for an upcoming interview following your applications. It's a 2-in-1 situation, and it really also forces you to sit down and go really deep into detail and think it through. Because I think what a lot of people do, usually they go like high level, oh, this is what I did, but they never really think it through. That I'm looking for the word.
Methodology.
In a very methodical,
Methodical. There you go.
That's the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. So awesome, Angela. And
You gotta have more. You got Elena.
yeah, even though we said good morning, is like 4 p.m. here, so I don't know how much more coffee I can have today. Yeah, Angela, anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, just to say, a lot of PhDs that we work with, they think that to differentiate their resume, they have to have a lot of graphical elements or things like that, but it's really the impact. And so when we talk about these specific things, there has to be a visual design and flow to your resume, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't require colors, it doesn't require graphics or icons or all the pretty bells and whistles. That's not what differentiates you. What differentiates you is the unique combination of skills and experiences that you have. And the STAR method is just one way that can help you illuminate that. So, highly recommend, 10 out of 10.
Cool. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing your wisdom with us.